And recently, the president of FIFA said that when the World Cup is held here in the United States, the team from Iran will play in the matches.
Well, if Johnny said it, I agree. What about you? Johnny said it?
Yes, he said it. And what if they win? Well,
Tino, ese sí que es un personaje.
they win.
Bueno, si ganan. We'll have to worry about that. That's not, I'm going to have to worry about that. That would be, look, you know what? Let them play. Well, Johnny is fantastic, you know. He's my friend, and he talked about that, and I told him, do whatever you want. You can have them. You don't have to have them. They probably have a good team. I don't know. They have a good team. Do you have any idea?
I have no idea.
It would be hard to believe, actually, but I think we have to let them play, right, Mr. President?
This is a little different, but what if?
Well, yes, Iran is going to play in the United States, period. There's no other option. Donald Trump also talks about the nuclear issue in Iran. Let's listen.
In summary, for the world, for our country, but certainly for Israel, the Middle East, and Europe, which are much closer, Iran cannot be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. And if you agree that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, which most people agree with, almost everyone, that should have been done a long time ago. But if you agree that they can't have a nuclear weapon, then what I did was carried out perfectly because our military has decimated them. Yes, go ahead, please.
Mr. President.
Well, and the next image, this one is about the troops that would be withdrawn over there in Europe. Let's listen.
You spoke about the possibility of withdrawing some troops from Germany. Would you consider doing the same with Spain and Italy? I mean, it's not like they've exactly agreed.
No. Waiting for it to be in the world. Well, why should they? Well, do it, look, because it shouldn't be. Are you serious? Italy hasn't helped us. And Spain has been horrible. Absolutely horrible. It's NATO. It's not even the fact that they're bad. It's one thing if they said it nicely. Or if they said, okay, we're going to help, but the help is a little slow. But the level, and we helped them with Ukraine. They made a mess of Ukraine, a total mess. And we helped them with Ukraine. Ukraine has nothing to do with it, We're separated by an ocean. That has to do with them. It's like for them, it's their front door. We helped them. And Biden gave them $350 billion, which is crazy. That's one of the reasons why the war continued. But when we needed them, they weren't there. We have to remember that. So if we ever have because we didn't need help with Iran. We had Iran from day one. It's over. It's over. And now even more. We are so prepared and ready. We want to do it. But we didn't need the help. And to a certain extent, I asked them, I didn't need their help, but I said, yes, we would love to have your help because I wanted to see if they would do it. And they, in every case, said, we don't want to get involved. And it surprised him. What's surprising is that they use them directly. We don't. We don't use them. We don't need them. We have a lot of oil.
We have a lot of oil, says Donald Trump, for everything. Also, well, they talked about Venezuela. Thank you very much for that ninth like Novak's dad, and to everyone in the community who hit like. Thank you so much. Let's move on to the next thing.
It has been an incredible period between Venezuela and US. We are doing very well. We are getting along very well with them. We are working very closely with them. They are producing more oil now than they have in many, many decades, actually. And they are making more money, and so are we. It's like a joint venture, to be honest.
A joint venture, he says, to be honest. And well, this is also a comment he makes here. This is a message that the parliament posts. How does it go?
The parliament?
The president.
Galibaf.
What is he saying? What's going on?
Well, he gives this example where he explains, he says, if you draw a line from New York to the coast, that's about 7,755 kilometers. And if you draw one like that, and then another one going the other way from California to what would be roughly the Carolinas. In total, that's 7,755 kilometers of just wall. If we count both, he says, if you add 1,000 more kilometers, well, that's everything. The entire border of Iran, he says, good luck trying to stop or protect or, well, just being there on the border of Iran.
No, because it's a very long border.
Yes, it's very big, just to be there monitoring and attacking. But below, they put an in for him. 1 kilometer is equal to 0.62 miles, just to explain it to you.
To explain it to you a little bit.
I'll explain it briefly in case you don't know.
All right. Hey, check out this image. Let's see. Let's see if we're going to put it here. Let's see. There it is. It's not. No. Hold on a second. It's this one. There it is. Yeah, that's it. Let's see. This is an image released from the security camera at the Hilton Hotel, where you can see the individual who fired near where Trump and the politicians were. We already know the story, right? From this past weekend, right? And well, that's the individual. There they are, and while they're uninstalling, for some reason they're removing these metal detector gates, but he doesn't go there. He's kind of watching the area and walks very confidently to a door, and who knows where it leads. But look behind him. A dog was sniffing him, pointing at him, telling the police that there was a person with weapons there. I mean, these dogs are. They're trained specifically to sniff out weapons, explosives, things like that. The dog was telling the officer to follow him, and the police officer, well, he did see him. Let's say he saw him as suspicious for a few seconds. Exactly. He pulls him to see if the dog insists, and the dog comes back and then just stares at him like, what happened? And then at some point he just dismisses him and walks away in another direction. Notice that right there, he comes out with the weapon, he runs out immediately. I mean, but he dismisses him. Things happen as if this colonel.
His name is Thomas Adam?
Well, from what I imagine, well, here I am, and I think maybe he thought they're about to find me, they're about to discover me, because they were already very close. The dog was already there. So he goes in and pulls out the weapon. I mean, he had it with him and he runs immediately. We already know that he runs there, shoots, and so pay attention in the next few seconds. Let me go back a little and you can see the moment. That's where he runs right away. And he run, I mean, and it's intense, really intense, because everyone's reaction there, right? Immediately they're pulling out weapons. The guy with the dog lets go of the dog, maybe just leaves it there and pulls out a weapon. And he goes after him too, because he's the one who got away in the end, and there he goes after him, right? And that's when in seconds they catch him, right? I mean, it's really interesting, and this whole case will definitely be studied a lot in the future, right? To make these kinds of events safer, which are supposed to be super secure events, but this time their security really failed them badly.
He's an amazing dog, yes, Mariano. Honestly, the dog indicated calling twice, and the police officer didn't have the sensitivity or curiosity to say, okay, let's check him, right? Because the dog's signal is very clear, right? He doesn't stand, I mean, he sits and stares twice in the direction where he is.
Well, anyway, another matter, right? Also pretty strange, and today is full of strange things, but this, what we're about to see, let's see if we can put it here. Let's pause it. This is an aerial shot. Let's see if we can put it over there. Where's the truck? There's a truck there. There it is, that tiny little dot, that dot right there. That's the truck where there was, well, a person who was, well, a politician, right? For getting involved in politics. Terry Christian, 54 years old, who was running for the Oklahoma State Senate with the support of Keith Rock, someone very close to Trump, right? Cap where Trump suddenly missed the meeting. Then his truck turns up abandoned in a wildlife management area, and now, well, he's found dead there, right?
Exactly. It's a strange case, isn't it? He's someone who was already on his way to becoming a senator. Well, he was still waiting for the elections, but he was already running for state senator in Oklahoma. We'll have to see what happened, whether he took his own life, if someone took his life, and what reasons might be behind it.
Yes, it's very strange. The whole thing is really strange.
But his anus is gone, though his body remains.
Yes, the body is here, split just like this. Also, a huge shout out to Jalisco and to Mariano Cejas. If the dog doesn't need it, he already says, "Greetings, Mariano. How have you been?" She says, "Oh, well, that guy's getting fired for being incompetent," says Mercedes. "How have you been, Mercedes?" Huge shout out to Tijuana, Carlos Martinez. "How have you been, Carlos?" "Greetings to Spain, Carlos, or where are you? I lost track. I lose track of the time zones sometimes." Hey, well, a super dog, honestly. And let's move on to the next image that we're looking at over here with these.
We're currently seeing aerial activity over Tehran, a topic that well, several Iranian media outlets have been talking about, although right now only they are covering this topic. There is no confirmation of an attack from either Israel or the United States. But there is another image where you can see something being neutralized at the CIE, so...
They destroy something in the sky.
They destroy something in the sky?
So the sky over Iran.
It's from Tehran, yes, okay. Well, it's not that one. It's not specifically, they say it's Zaidun in the Kurdistan area in Iran, but there's another one that's over Tehran, where if you look, you don't see that fire, you don't see that neutralization, but you do see movement.
Let's see. Let's check if we have the other image you're talking about right now, but this would be over Iran. Let's look at the other images we have today. I think it's this one. It's this one. Let's put it here.
And here are the media outlets that are reporting it. I think that's really important because almost all of them are from Iran, actually.
Okay, well, I can't see anything. I mean, that little thing that's passing by looks like, well, there's INRA, MERS News. You know, the media from over there have been reporting strange movements in the sky over Iran's capital. Also, well, this image is shown where the UN not talking about what's happening over there in Colombia. This is a statement from UN Human Rights that says, it says the following. Let's see if we can reload it because it's been freezing a lot lately. Here it goes. Let's listen a bit to what it says about the events. Well, listen for yourselves. Well, no, they don't want to. It says no, that I can't see it like this, that I should pay. No, that I should pay, that I should pay for Twitter. No, I don't use a paid account. Here it goes.
Condemnation for the attacks against the civilian population carried out between April 24 and 27 in Cauca and Valle de Cauca by non-state armed groups. UN Human Rights calls on national and local governments to strengthen the coordination of their actions to protect the civilian population and prevent new attacks by non-state armed groups. UN Human Rights urges non-state armed groups to respect international humanitarian law and to cease any attacks against the population. UN Human Rights reiterates that indiscriminate attacks against the civilian population and their property, and attacks on medical missions, among others, are prohibited, and that these attacks constitute serious violations of international humanitarian law. We welcome the marches for peace and for respect for human rights carried out by the civilian population in Cauca yesterday, Tuesday, and we hope that their call for an end to violence will be heard and supported by broad sectors of society in Colombia. We welcome marches for peace and for respect for human rights carried out to prevent these actions by non-state armed groups. We emphasize once again that the Northern Cauca Dialogue Table is a call for an end to violence. Heard and supported by broad sectors of the Cauca marches and human rights groups como herramienta de prevención. Tuesday, and a call for an end to violence to be heard and supported by broad sectors.
Part of the message is not there, though. We welcome marches for an in Cauca on Tuesday. We hope that the outcry, let's say, at that level, suddenly from a UN that is so questioned in many areas,
Es que pues ha sido muy lenta, ¿no? en su...
that the call against violence is heard and supported by broad sectors of society.
Porque a final de cuentas también
we welcome what has been carried out there, and then suddenly there's a drop-off in functionality, which, well, is not working.
Sinceramente, como debería.
Tuesday, and we hope their outcry is heard and supported by broad sectors of society.
No lo pasada ahí, solo le mando un saludo.
Marches for respect are being carried out there. On one side, there's, I imagine, soccer as an important figure. Marches. And on the other side, Israel, and he's in the middle of it all. A call for Israel to stop, and just imagine the symbolism that would have if that violence were heard by broad sectors to unite, right? But no, I mean...
But football couldn't...
Well, more or less, in the end, being there, kind of yes, kind of no, he sends a message, well, that in the end, what matters is that the kids can play football, etc., etc. Well, at one point, look at them. That's the closest they could get like that. And at one point, we greeted each other from a distance, like 2 meters apart. But that's the most, and out of respect for the pues bueno, fue el people involved, digamos, del día. Eso y lo de que carried out to participate in the World Cup in the US. That's also, well, obviously important, right? Another image that's also circulating is this tremendous explosion. This one we greet marches, peace, all the attacks that are happening both in your app for the respect of humans and also, well, they attack Perm again. They had attacked before. They attack Perm again and call it Cabo because showing the map, there are 1,400 sectors. We greet marches for peace and for humans carried out by broad sectors.
Marches for peace and for human respect carried out by broad sectors of society. Y también ya lleva como 2 o 3 ataques.
For human respect carried out by broad sectors of society.
Sí, está bien impresionante.
Sí, está impressive as well. So let's move on. We greet the peace marches, and well, today's headline is about that. Este secreto. From the Pentagon itself, let's go on the map to this part of the world. Here it is. Humans carried out by broad sectors of the. And well, in the end, we're going through a phase in which DARPA, for example, and all these military organizations are already looking to control drones in a different way. We greet marches for peace and pure human respect, nothing more, but it's going to be blended with the human being. From Washington, it has been carried out by sectors of society. Although many things are still being kept quiet, still secret, obviously, some things have been revealed. The Pentagon and DARPA are using what they call neurotechnology. That is, these neuro weapons. We greet marches, peace, and respect for those carried out. The brain itself, the soldier's brain, no, but directly connected to it.
Drone.
Sí,
Neuralink.
¿cómo no?
Neuralink, pues, ¿y con quién últimamente ha tenido? Bueno, desde que inició el gobierno de Donald Trump, pues con Elon Musk, que está muy interesado y le encanta obviamente este tema. Y bueno, sí hay una diferencia. Marches for Peace. Invasive, because we have to remember the human rights carried out by, obviously, the outlook, because it can be implemented on a massive scale in sectors of society. And not only would it read brain signals, but it would also send information from the drone directly to the brain. We welcome the instant reaction speed in combat from institutions like Carnegie, Peace, and out of respect for those who have carried it out, technology. And we're already talking about high-level laboratories. I mean, it's not just anything, it's been around for a while. The first phases started in 2018, and it has already advanced through 3 phases. The first one is just technical tests, then there were animal trials, and finally human trials. And right now, se sabe que el proyecto ya está carried out by broad sectors.
We greeted marches and for the respect of those carried out by sectors in a very quick way. Imagine that it's a drone where you no longer need to have the quickness of pressing a button, but rather mental quickness.
It's your thought. No, not even seconds, less than a second.
Exactly, that's really crazy.
And well, one of the most interesting breakthroughs, this comes out in a report that we greet marches, peace, and for the respect carried out by. It's the sharp focus technology, which is one of the most important breakthroughs because it was the high resolution brain stimulation method non-invasive. Intervención quirúrgica. Y bueno, we greet marches from the health sectors and for the human rights carried out by the sectors. We greet marches.
Peace. I am checking the chat to see what's happening. This is for the respect of broad sectors of society. Is there any other development out there that they're working on?
Bueno, ahorita en las investigaciones, obviamente, greetings. Well, we should remember that we're at a time when drones have changed peace, and for example, in Ukraine, we've seen impressive progress. Obviously, there's an ethical debate about how far human rights, these soldiers' mental privacy, and whether this can be carried out on a broad scale. En menos tiempo y más precisión.
The big question is what's known, what they might be doing, and what we don't know, because
obviously
these things only come out once they're finished. What we just talked about regarding this plane, that it took almost 20 years to reveal it existed when it had already flown all around the world. So that kind of technology is even easier to hide. Yeah, well, the neurotechno-military revolution is going to be more and more developed. And I insist that's just a little of what the United States reports. Who knows what they're doing in Japan or China, England, whatever. And also countries that maybe already have very advanced developments in other areas like this. And we won't even know about it until a Terminator shows up somewhere. Bueno,
it's going to be really shocking when it finally comes to light. It's good that at least one person is going.
This will be interesting. Let's move on to other important matters too. A few quick notes on geopolitics and what's happening in the world. Just a quick summary to keep us up to date. Iran has reportedly issued warnings again, this time claiming that painful blows are coming and the United States is resuming its attacks. The Iranians are nervous because apparently also, right? They didn't want to negotiate, there were
no intentions.
Maybe there were no intentions, or they just couldn't agree internally, or perhaps that's what they want to show, displaying a lack of control which might be for the best. But the point is to stretch things out as much as possible without being attacked, and in the meantime to keep solidifying their power. That's a huge issue, but anyway, the commander of the aerospace force, Mihad Mousavi, issued a warning. Gabi was very explicit in saying, "We have seen what has happened. It happened to their regional bases. The same thing could happen to warships." Mohammed himself, in an alleged message from him, broadcast on Al Jazeera. Well, he sent a message today, which we already talked about in the morning broadcast, but anyway, that's basically the kind of message he puts out over there.
Donald Trump is also starting to run out of time on Friday. Remember that there is no war, it's with Iran, it's not a war to begin with, and there is no authorization from Congress. There was a move made there called, I don't know what, the Gang of Eight was notified, but they don't have permission. But this period could be this moment, since they are Congress members, and there is a 60-day deadline during which they must do whatever needs to be done, the special operation, and finish it within those 60 days. But on Friday, their legal deadline ends regarding the conflict with Iran, so they would have to make other moves within the United States in order to continue with this war. The president faces a crucial 60-day deadline under the War Powers resolutions in effect since 1973. And this law requires the President of the United States, starting tomorrow, Friday, to withdraw the troops from hostilities if he doesn't have authorization from Congress. In theory, tomorrow he would have to start removing or pulling out things like the aircraft carriers, for example. Because it started on the 28th, we're already approaching 60 days. The conflict has also dragged on a lot. There's no clear end in sight, is there? For his part, the Secretary of War said that the legal clock could be paused because of the war. So what does this mean? Since they're in a ceasefire, the clock isn't running right now? That's Pete Hesiod's version. Obviously, it could be very different if we look at the legal side. Would the congressman have to review this? But constitutional experts say no, that the law doesn't include any automatic pause. They don't even know what Pete Hesiod is talking about on that issue. But within the Republican Party, voices are starting to emerge demanding legal authorization to continue any offensive. For example, Senator John Curtis made it clear that he will not support military actions beyond this 60-day period without Congress's approval. Senator John Hawley also insists that the law must be followed and is already demanding a withdrawal. And Senator Lisa Murkowski has already prepared a formal authorization for the use of military force against Iran, but she hasn't presented it yet. Or if there are people who are willing to accept the declaration of conflict or to accept these moves by Congress, but there are Republicans who don't want to play this game. And well, it's a topic we'll see tomorrow, how exactly Trump will handle it.
We'll see, but at least time is running out in that sense, the legal sense. Or does this turn into a broader war that could be extended for a longer time with Congress's approval? And who knows how far it will go, or are we already starting to see the first legal debate?
For their part in Israel, well, they're just about ready to say it. As we said, they're saying the negotiations with the United States have failed. They are not ruling out new attacks against Iran. The other day they said they were already prepared and everything. Well, today the Minister of Defense, Israel Katz, comes out and leaves the door open to a new offensive the moment the United States gives them the green light, right?
That's the issue. Let's move on to another topic. Let's go to another important matter as well, by the way. They have been happening. We can say there have been very strong reactions from a geopolitical point of view, especially with China regarding the Taiwan issue. Beijing insists and urges Washington to make the right decisions regarding Taiwan in order to maintain stability between the two powers. This same Wang Yi we're seeing on screen, the Chinese foreign minister, a very tough figure.
He never smiles.
He never smiles. On Thursday, he urged the United States to maintain stability between the powers and warned that Taiwan represents a greater risk. Just a few weeks before the surveillance scheduled by Donald Trump and Beijing. In other words, there's a visit in May. In 15 days, Trump will be there visiting China. And, well, almost always there are very, very tense visits before and then during the event. Everything's great, greetings, and so on. And then once it's over, the quarrels and the tug-of-war start again. But anyway, that's also reported on this topic. Another issue that draws attention is the attacks that have been taking place against Jewish communities within the United Kingdom. There was also a reaction from the Prime Minister, who, by the way, was being booed today by the people protesting over there in that country. The Prime Minister promises to take action against those who glorify violence, against people targeting Jews, or rather against people who also commit violence against religions. In other words, topics that are related to anything connected to, to minorities and others, partly due to violence. It's a mix. One group starts, then another, leading to a series of terrible events. But sometimes it also focused on the Jewish community, especially because they have been attacked lately.
Yes, the threats are very focused right now. And well, in fact, the terrorist threat level for the United Kingdom was officially raised to severe, which means terrorism, or rather, a highly likely terrorist attack. They are in the United Kingdom. You must stay very observant of your surroundings.
But anyway, be alert about that as well. By the way, that's also important. This movement by the terrorist group Hezbollah is drawing attention as they have incorporated fiber optic drones that evade defenses and strike the north. The strategy that was learned in the Ukraine-Russia war, which both Ukraine and Russia use. Look, I don't know if you can see this drone. It's an example, obviously, but there's a thread here. Here's the whole thread. This is, let's say, a roll of fiber optic cable, this thing right here, and here it is. I never saw how those rolls worked and always wondered how they pulled out the fiber optic strand. Well, this right here is the fiber optic cable. Here's the roll, and it's about 3 kilometers of fiber optic cable. So then it's launched, the drone is launched, so to speak, and it doesn't transmit any signal. It doesn't even have antennas. It has nothing. The drone isn't sending out any signal at all because everything communicates through the little cable. That's the little cable. They aren't very long either, maybe 3 or 4 kilometers, but they keep moving forward. When they see a target, they attack it to stop it. If there's no signal, there isn't one.
Recently, I saw a case of a Ukrainian boy who saw one of these heading toward his little siblings, and he broke the wire. And with those others...
Break the wire and the problem's gone.
If you insist on catching it...
You insist on seeing the wire. It's very thin, so if you break the wire, there's no problem. The drone loses control. The thing is, like I said, they're now using these types of drones to evade defenses and strike in northern Israel. Be careful with that issue because we're surely going to start seeing it in internal conflict strategies, groups like what's it called, organized crime, let's say, because that's what it is. Let's say they have protection from a high ranking official and some signal jamming devices to block this kind of equipment. But how do you avoid this? O sea, well, that's intense. Let's move on to other matters. It's kind of a nightmare right now for all the security agencies and everything. You wake up one day and everything has evolved again. You go on vacation, come back, and you have to renew all your security measures again. Well, and besides with the errors and everything, let's go to other issues.
Importantes. ¿Qué más tenemos por ahí?
Well, we have to. The United States issued a warning today regarding the accusation against the governor of Sinaloa, Ruben Rocha Moya, and I think it's something to take into account. They say this is just the beginning of a large-scale offensive against Mexican government officials who are linked to the cartels. This is what the House Foreign Affairs Committee says as they issued this public statement supporting the formal accusation. And well, as you already know, we told you yesterday that the governor and 9 other Mexican officials who are currently in office are on this list that was published today, or rather yesterday. The organization noted this marks the start of this move by the United States. The committee stated impunity for narco-terrorists is over. If you are complicit in drug trafficking to the United States, we will hold you accountable. This is just the beginning.
Well, that's the issue. The pressure against these officials will continue. I think these kinds of people really need to be investigated, not because the United States says so, but for the good of Mexico. I mean, this needs to be analyzed, investigated, and if it's determined, well, what are these people involved in? Because clearly the evidence from journalism, testimonies, and even the security agencies themselves have detected all of that. That whole thread of groups close to these kinds of people are involved in some pretty shady things. It's a topic that, like I keep saying, I think a series of things are about to start coming to light. And with the information, just imagine what this Maduro and the others who have been taken, like Mayo and all of them, will be revealing. I think all of that is going to generate major developments and evidence that will show the possible collusions of all these people. Tell us about other important matters. What else do we have out there?
Well, today we also have what's happening with Antonio Guterres, who is about to send a yes, happy birthday. But we're also going to send the lawyers after the United States because they haven't paid some debts they have pending. It depends on which country pays a fee to the WHO, the issue with the WHO, to the UN, and so on, right? And well, Secretary Guterres said today that the United States owes billions of dollars to the organization and that these are not negotiable, that he's going to send them the typical bank letter, where they tell you, hey, you owe so much that you can make small payments and all that. This information has drawn significant attention. There are 2 diplomatic notes defended by the United States that demand 9 new rapid impact reforms regarding the conditions to release more funds, including spending cuts and measures to counter certain Chinese influences at the United Nations. But for his part, Guterres says, Antonio Guterres, besides worrying so much about that, there is a certain amount of money. He says the money we are referring to is called mandatory contributions, Guterres tells reporters, and those contributions are mandatory. They are an obligation of the member states and are not negotiable. And well, Guterres has been under a lot of pressure from the United States. Donald Trump, well, whenever he can criticize the UN, he also criticizes NATO. And well, I've been listening to what Antonio Guterres says, that to be an organization effective and cost efficient, well, you need to provide certain services and obviously cover certain costs.
Well, that's how things are, and no, drones are not obsolete, not at all.
Not at all, that's not what they're saying.
It says there, look, and their stuff, no, what they're saying is that they're obsolete because of the laser beam, no. If that were the case, just imagine, conflicts would already be over, right? Laser beams, well, Ukraine has them too, the United States has them, not just Israel. I mean, this has already been explained very, very thoroughly about how the system works. This laser, yes, it can heat up a drone. Yes, it can take them out, but it can only take out one. It takes time. I mean, it heats up the drone. What it does is heat up the drone. It's not like in the movies where it shoots and explodes and that's it, but rather it takes a while to heat up, and then
What if they send you 100 or 1,000 like Russia does?
you just can't, at least not right now. Besides, just like they develop defense systems, they also develop drone systems. And what happens if a drone is stealthy if you can't even see it, right? Right now, they're developing some absolutely impressive things with drones, some of which are still theoretical, but let's be honest, there wouldn't even be a way to catch up to the drone. Never mind that the drone is already there and or if it's there, and others that fly at such a low altitude that by the time you want to attack them, they're already on top of you. So, yes, it's very complicated. Besides, when you have a border, you can't protect the entire border. That's what we're seeing right now with the Gulf countries, the United Arab Emirates, and with Israel's defense system, by the way. We already know what happened. Obviously, no, not only are they not obsolete, they're actually a nightmare right now for the United States, for Russia, and even for Israel itself. We obviously know that right now it's the conflict of robots, drones, and so on. But anyway, let's move on to other things. Let's go now.
Hey, if I missed it, where did oil end up?
How did the oil end up? Well, look, the oil is done for, it's over because
It's done for yes.
no, it's currently somewhat contained because it reached $120 and right now it's at 116. Well, that's it.
So when it's at 116, that's it. Yes.
No, it's extremely high. It's extremely high. And above all, I imagine they're nervous right now, especially for two reasons. One, because the Strait of Hormuz is still closed, right? One. Yes. And number two, well, because time for negotiations is running out, and whether you like it or not, the next thing is, well, war, right? And I don't see another way. I mean, I don't see another path, unfortunately. I mean, yes, there are some, but they're not visible.
You can't see it from either side.
Given their current positions, there's no indication an agreement is near. And that's where what you all have mentioned here several times comes in. Well, the position that there isn't an international organization that's active enough or has enough power, it's no use for Antonio Guterres to say anything, right? For him to come out and say, well, this or that, it's useless if in the end there's no action. Exactly, that's the problem, and there's no action. Well, no, because he doesn't have the power, right? So, and who's going to, I mean, the thing is, who's going to want to give him the power to say, well, that it has some validity? I mean, in any case, it's the Security Council that has it. That's the most, yes. At most, it has, let's say, some validity when it comes to making a decision. And those are decisions that are always long-term, right? About sanctions and things like that, which we already know. Well, let's check the comments. How have you been? Thank you so much for joining us. What are they saying?
Let's say hello to Nova's dad. How are you? Also to Marcela Riquelme, to Pantelita Sismica, and also here, let's see who else is here. Well, Naidu, always working. Greetings to Francisco Arce. And Christy is also here. She says, hello everyone. I'm putting Jonas to sleep. That's why I arrived late. I'll go back to the beginning later. Greetings, Christy. Greetings also to Mariano Ceja. Chamuco says to the Democrats because they were the ones who let the narcos in, says Mariano. Greetings, Mariano. Greetings also to Carlos Martinez. He says one of his daughters is a physics teacher, says Carlos. Greetings. And if they get involved, let them take them all. As long as they don't involve Mexico, everything is fine. I think the information wouldn't be in court if the evidence wasn't solid. I also think that, they can't be, I don't think they would have pointed them out without having a basis. Exactly.
Here I have the information directly from Israel about what it's like and how the system works. The BM, it can attack swarms on swarms of 4 to 5. That's the most it can do, not 50. No, it says lasers are usually sequential systems, one by one. The Iron Beam can switch targets extremely fast, destroying drones and rockets in a matter of seconds. More or less, let's say what it takes is about 3, 4, 5 seconds for each one. Then it attacks another and another, which is currently the fastest, right? Of the systems of that type that exist. And if it's made to attack swarms, the thing is, well, just not on a very large scale yet, right? So they're developing it, and I don't doubt they'll have it when they have it all around Israel or whatever. It could be the solution, at least for certain types of drones. Now, the thing is, it's still heat. And the drones, like I keep saying, are constantly being updated. The system also has operational distance limits. It can only be at a maximum of between 5 and 10 kilometers, which is another issue. They're already on top of you. So it doesn't replace, and here they say it themselves, it says the iron beam works, but it doesn't replace the iron shield. There's still a way to go before that happens, and, well, it will surely be disruptive when the time comes. I mean, when it's achieved. Again, like I said, if that's the case. And in the end, well, sooner or later, they're going to have to, yes,
Some people are going to come up with it.
a system that protects them from that and makes them more resilient. That's how war works. One side evolves, then the other, and the cycle continues. It's a constant war where there are no absolute solutions, right? I mean, it's not like, that's why I insist, it's not like drones are already obsolete. Oh no, well, that's it. They're no longer drones. So if that were the case, companies would be bankrupt right now and there would be no possibilities. Like there's already a system that wipes out all drones. No, there isn't, right? They keep advancing and then the others catch up again, and that's how it goes constantly, right? But anyway, cheers, the conversation gets really good here. Greetings also to Antonio. Hello, greetings all the way to Texas. How are you both doing over there? He says, greetings from Waxahachie, Texas, Pepe and his wife. He says, all the way to the Y in Monterrey.
He says, greetings, don't stay here.
We're fine, Antonio.
Greetings also to Marcela Riquelme, to Mercedes Garza. How are you, Mercedes? Greetings also to Rublox and also to Papa Nog. He says, good evening, greetings to the whole community.
A big shout out.
Italo is here too. Russia will take advantage of this, says Italo. Greetings, Italo.
He says, how did the little ones enjoy themselves, the little ones, the little ones? Well, they're not that little anymore, but of course I congratulated them. I even congratulated Estrid too, because in some way we all have our inner child, and it was very chill. Because since it falls during the week, we usually go out to a restaurant or something like that. This time, no, because today we're going out. I mean, let's see, it's a work day, so to speak, for us, but we did go out for ice cream. We went out for ice cream.
It's a work day.
And we went for cones, and actually, once we finish here, we're going to start playing now. Let's see how it goes. But we went for chocolate ice cream with nuts and their respective wafer cones or cones. I don't know what they're called in other countries. Here we call them cones. I think it's the same everywhere. I don't know, I suppose.
Cone and wafer cone.
Cone and wafer, right? Yes. But here they don't use wafer cone, do they? I mean, I think...
They use cone more, yes.
Cone, which is the one?
If you say wafer cone, I understand.
Yes. If you say wafer cones, they understand you perfectly. But I guess they call cones. Everyone does. But I don't know, right? Let me check. Let's see.
Greetings also to, says Mariano. I mean, they didn't help him because they let these crazy extremists into their countries and didn't get involved. And now the same thing, they're being attacked. Greetings, Mariano. Greetings. Greetings also to, says Antonio. How much is a gallon of gas in Monterrey? I haven't checked that, Antonio.
Well, no, we don't measure it here by the gallon.
But
it's
just how much is a liter of gasoline?
I don't remember how much a gallon is.
A gallon is 4 liters, right? Right now, it's supposedly at 20.
3.78 liters. So then I'll just do the math, right? Here it's 27 liters.
I think, no, 29 liters. Well, 29, the what's it called? The premium?
29 for premium. So then it would be, 29 times 3.783, exactly 3.78. Oh.
Sorry, now times, well.
Okay, and then divided by 18, which is about where the dollar is. Well, 17 something, yeah.
17 something, wow, the dollar is really strong.
77.4 to be exact. That would be $6.3 per gallon for premium.
Well, that's cheaper than in the United States.
No.
It's more expensive, sorry.
It's much more expensive here. Yes, gas here is at California prices. That's the most expensive area in the United States over there in California. Well, that's how gas is here. It's expensive. At least that's the price for premium. Obviously, you can get the regular, and also, yes, prices do vary a bit in other parts of Mexico. But wherever it's 29 pesos, that's basically the highest price in the United States.
Chris says, yes, how delicious, an ice cream cone. The people from Jalisco, we call it barquillo. And Yayo says, in Chile, we usually call it barquillo too. Antonio calls it barquillo and cono. Barquillo is also in Chile. And he says tomorrow they pay.
He says...
Cucurucho, like that, cucurucho. But notice that here, cucurucho usually means the paper cones used in old markets. They used to put bread in cucuruchos. They would put what you bought in cucuruchos.
My grandfather like that? Well, no, he called the medicine wrapper a cucurucho. They used to hand it out wrapped in newspaper.
Yes, it's a cucurucho.
Cucurucho, right?
Yes, it's a cucurucho. Because before bags existed, people used those paper cones, which are much more eco-friendly, but they take more time because you have to make them. So, well, it's a tradition.
I know how to do it.
You know how? Because I helped my grandfather. I'll have you make cones, though I'm not sure why.
He taught me how.
How to do it.
The medicines turned out perfect. I mean, they were wrapped in newspaper.
So that nobody sees that you're sick. Yes, Daniela says tomorrow they get paid to buy gas. Greetings.
Today it's true, tomorrow it is.
They say they give them, Antonio says they're $3.99, I mean $4, but that's already the price for regular.
How much for those four?
$3.99, the regular one, actually $4, the most expensive one.
Yes, 4 for the regular one, but this is the most expensive. Let's check the price.
The other one, there's usually about a 2 peso difference. Let me see.
No, Marga, no.
Yes, that's true. Now it's 24.
24, that's fine. Let's see. No, there's almost no difference. But okay, let's see. 24 times 3. It says here.
What could happen to the price of oil when the United Arab Emirates leaves OPEC? Well, it seems like a lot to change. I mean, just one country to change the whole market. Yes, but the idea is that they're going to produce more to be able to sell more, but it doesn't mean it's going to be more expensive or cheaper because it's just one country.
The price would go down, yes.
Would it go down enough for that to happen? No.
Not much, but it has some influence.
Just a few cents. Mariano says, bring back the Tesla, goodbye oil. Mariano says, regards.
$5.2 for the cheapest gasoline.
Yes, no, man. Antonio Mata says it's expensive and Pemex is in Costa Rica, I know. We have the Cadereyta refinery here, which doesn't make much gas, just a little. No, yes, it makes quite a lot.
Yes, it does. I mean, it does its part, more or less. Yes. The criticism about the gasoline is that it's very polluting. That's what people criticize. I mean, that's what it has. No, gasoline, yes. But let's say it has features that are somewhat more polluting than normal. That's what they criticize it for, not me. I don't know, and I haven't really looked into that topic. Who does those studies or what? But they've been here for a while criticizing that refinery. What they've asked for is that they want it removed. Well, not remove it, but move it away from the cities because it's very close to the city. Yes, and that's not, well, it's very polluted, obviously.
Greetings also to, where is it here? It says Antepanterita. It's true. Yes, it's true. Yes, greetings. I love when people tell me it's true. I don't know what, but anyway, greetings to Cleo. Greetings, Nahuatl's dad. Greetings. And it also says here, Antonio, the cartridge is like a funnel. The cartridge, it's the cone. The cone, yes, it's a cardboard funnel, or rather made of newspaper, right? It says,
thank you, Bayo, for gifting that membership, which, by the way, went to Daniela 2000. We send our regards to Daniela. Congratulations, Daniela. You got a membership gifted by Bayo 25. That's awesome. It says, why is oil so expensive? There's oil in Costa Rica, and Pepe the Bull passed by, and the bull passed by. How did that happen, Antonio? But yeah, I mean, well, it's a country that has oil, but it has really expensive fuel, right? I mean, if not, it's definitely not cheap.
Yeah, it's not. The issue in Mexico is we lack refineries. We only have 2, right?
Here in Mexico,
right? We have very few.
Mariano says about $55 in Argentina. Is that 55 per liter or what? Or per gallon?
Right? We have 8 refineries.
8 refineries. Yes, of course. Yes. I don't remember how many there are.
That's not that few.
Yes, greetings, says Maria Elena. Greetings, Maria Elena, all the way to Puebla. Very good, she says. Good evening. Very true, she says. They used to wrap everything in paper. In some places, they didn't use plastic anymore. Thank you for the information, says Pepe. Greetings from Tehuacan. Hugs to colleagues. Very good, says Maria Elena. Come on. Sentinel rocket. A hybrid solution that uses electro-optical weapon stations, electro-optical stations, and rockets that release missiles. Thousands of steel balls to create an impenetrable cloud, he says. Come on.
Greetings to Christie's in Utah. It's already at $4.60, the cheapest one. Cheaper than here, says Marcela. Here, gas is at 1,600 Chilean pesos. And how much is that in dollars? Let's see.
Per liter, per liter. I imagine it's per liter.
Yes, that's the thing. Per liter, exactly, says Antonio here. They send it to Texas to be refined. Yes, we have this one. It's called Deer Park too, and also, but there are others. One within the country. There are 6, and there are 2 in the United States. Well, no, this one too. The Omega is in Tabasco, so there are 7 then.
Mexico and 1 in the United States. Yes. Hey, let's go.
Let's go. Guys, remember that we're on WhatsApp and we're on Telegram. That's where we send you notifications about our updates. But we're also on Facebook, X, and Instagram.
Great. Thank you very much. A big greeting to the whole community watching us on replay. We'll keep talking. See you tomorrow. We interrupt your regular programming.
Thank you for tuning in. Honestly, this
is Pepe en Vivo.
En vivo. The truth is intense, harsh. The bizarre is real, harsh. Here we analyze it. Global approach, don't miss out. Connect to the channel Pepe en Vivo. Controlling the signal, Pepe en Vivo. Telling it like it is. Raw journalism, here it's respected. Activate the alert, don't lose track. Until next time, yes sir.
We take attendance.
Live at home.
Live.